The holographic display pulsed with an eerie blue light, casting long shadows across the war chamber of the Zarkoth Collective. Admiral Kazera's segmented fingers traced the projected star charts, her compound eyes reflecting the intricate network of human colonial outposts. Surrounding her, the senior military strategists of the most feared conquering race in the galaxy leaned forward, their exoskeletons clicking with anticipation. "Look here," Kazera commanded, zooming into a cluster of remote settlements. Her voice carried the weight of centuries of interstellar dominance. "These human colonies are nothing more than academic research stations, populated primarily by young scientists, students, and support personnel. They represent the soft underbelly of human expansion." Tactical Coordinator Zorin, a veteran of 17 different galactic conflicts, leaned closer to the holographic projection. His mandibles twitched with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. "Our intelligence reports suggest these are not typical military installations. They are educational centers, research platforms scattered across the frontier of human-controlled space." The room fell silent. Centuries of galactic conquest had taught the Zarkoth the simple truth. Every civilization had its breaking point. They had crushed resistance movements, dismantled entire planetary defense networks, and scattered countless species across the cosmic winds. Humanity, for all its recent emergence on the galactic stage, seemed no different. Kazera's taloned hand swept across the display, highlighting a specific cluster of stations. Perimeter Station Alpha, a remote educational complex located in the Ta-CD system. It houses approximately 500 young researchers, students, and support staff. No significant military presence, no heavy defensive infrastructure. The strategy was elegant in its simplicity. By targeting these isolated academic outposts, the Zarkoth would deliver a psychological blow that would reverberate through human space. Young minds, cut down before they could reach their potential. The message would be clear: nowhere was safe. No future was guaranteed. Zorin pulled up additional data streams. Personnel records, communication logs, infrastructure analyses. The station specializes in xenoscience, quantum communication, and adaptive technologies. Their research teams are young, average age between 16 and 25. Brilliant minds, but ultimately vulnerable. What the Zarkoth did not understand was the fundamental nature of human educational systems. These were not mere students. They were the product of a civilization that prepared its youth for every potential scenario. Every research station was a potential fortress. Every student a potential defender. "We'll strike during their standard research rotation," Kazera continued, her voice a low, calculated rumble. "Minimal external support. No immediate rescue capabilities. A precision strike that will send a message across human space." The other commanders nodded. Holographic displays showed strike vectors, quantum displacement coordinates, weapons loadouts, plasma torpedoes capable of reducing entire research facilities to molecular dust, shock troops equipped with the most advanced combat technologies in the known galaxy. They believed they had found the perfect target. A way to break the spirit of an emerging species, to demonstrate the futility of resistance. They were wrong. What the Zarkoth did not comprehend was that humanity's greatest strength was not in its military might, but in its ability to transform every challenge into an opportunity for growth. These young researchers were not victims waiting to be conquered. They were the front line of human adaptation, innovation, and resilience. As the War Council finalized their plans, not a single Zarkoth strategist realized they were about to make the most catastrophic miscalculation in their species' history. The countdown to their destruction had already begun. The first plasma torpedoes struck Perimeter Station Alpha with surgical precision. Quantum displacement fields shimmered as Zarkoth shock troops materialized along the station's outer research quadrants. Alarms remained silent, a testament to the station's advanced warning systems. Emma Rodriguez wasn't surprised. As the senior tactical analysis intern, she had been running contingency simulations for months. Her augmented reality display flickered to life the moment the first energy signature deviated from standard background radiation. Most 17-year-olds would have panicked. Emma simply took a deep breath and began executing protocols. Multiple breach points detected. She spoke clearly into her communication implant. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces, routing emergency communications through encrypted quantum channels. Quadrant 3, Section 7. Recommend immediate containment and redirection. Across the research station, young scientists and students moved with a precision that would shock most military veterans. This was not a place of helpless academics. This was a living, breathing system designed to adapt and survive. In the xenobiology lab, Marcus Thompson, a 16-year-old prodigy with 3 published research papers, was already sealing critical research samples. Containment protocols activated automatically, protecting decades of irreplaceable scientific work. Nearby, a group of students transformed their research equipment into makeshift defensive systems. The Zarkov shock troops advanced, expecting minimal resistance. Their battle computers calculated probability of success at 97.3%. Standard colonial targets typically collapsed within minutes of a precision strike. They had conquered civilizations across 3 galactic quadrants. This would be no different. They were wrong. The station's environmental systems became a weapon. Marcus identified the specific atmospheric composition that would disrupt the Zarkov troops' exoskeleton respiratory filters. With a few command inputs, he began subtly altering air pressure and chemical composition. The invaders would find their advanced combat suits slowly becoming prisons. Emma's tactical overlay showed the first wave of defenders moving into position. These weren't soldiers. They were researchers, students, technical support staff, each one trained in comprehensive emergency response protocols that made most military training look primitive. Defensive teams, activate secondary containment protocols, Emma commanded. Her voice remained calm, almost clinical. Prioritize research preservation and minimal structural damage. The first Zarkov troops breached the main research corridor. They expected screaming, panic, the confused scrambling of academic personnel. Instead, they found a coordinated response that suggested these humans had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. Sophia Patel, a 15-year-old xenoengineering student, had already repurposed the station's quantum communication array. What the Zarkov believed was a simple communications hub became a sophisticated electronic warfare platform. She began broadcasting false sensor data, creating phantom defensive positions, and disrupting the invaders' tactical networks. In the station's medical bay, young researchers transformed diagnostic equipment into precision targeting systems. Laser scalpels became cutting-edge defensive weapons. Medical nanobots were reprogrammed to interfere with the Zarkov troops' advanced combat systems. The invasion was supposed to take minutes, hours at most. 45 minutes into the attack, the Zarkov shock troops found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't just resist. They adapted. Every system became a potential weapon. Every piece of research equipment a defensive tool. The station wasn't just defending itself. It was learning, evolving, counterattacking. What the Zarkov didn't understand was that this wasn't just a research station. This was a crucible of human potential. Every young person here was a product of a civilization that transformed challenges into opportunities. The battle for Perimeter Station Alpha had begun, and humanity was just getting started. Jason Williams' fingers moved like lightning across multiple holographic interfaces. At 16, he was already a legend in cybersecurity circles, though most of the galaxy didn't know it yet. The Zarkov believed they had superior communication technologies. Jason was about to prove them catastrophically wrong. Network penetration successful, he muttered, more to himself than to anyone listening. The research station's communication hub transformed into a sophisticated command center, with Jason at its digital heart. What the aliens saw as a simple research network was actually a living, breathing intelligence system. Quantum entanglement communication nodes, originally designed for deep space research, now became weapons of unprecedented sophistication. Jason began weaving a digital tapestry that would confuse, misdirect, and ultimately destroy the Zarkov invasion force. In the station's central hub, Emma Rodriguez coordinated the broader defensive strategy. Her tactical displays showed more than just the immediate conflict. She was mapping the invaders' communication patterns, identifying critical vulnerabilities, predicting movement vectors with terrifying accuracy. Redirecting communication packets, Jason announced. On his display, Zarkov communication channels began to fracture. False coordinates appeared. Phantom units materialized in tactical displays. Command structures started to collapse from within. The resistance wasn't just about survival. It was about turning the invasion into a learning opportunity. Dr. Michael Chen, the station's lead researcher, watched the young defenders with a mixture of pride and calculated assessment. The education systems that produced these students had been preparing for exactly this type of scenario for decades. Every research station was a potential fortress. Every student a potential defender. Across the station, improvised defense teams emerged. The hydroponics lab became a chemical warfare center. Engineering students repurposed research equipment into defensive systems. Even the station's cleaning and maintenance robots found new purpose, transformed into reconnaissance and disruption units. Sophia Patel's xenobiology research took an unexpected turn. She discovered a critical weakness in the Zarkov troops' environmental suits. The same nanoscale analysis she had been conducting for her research project now became a weapon of survival. With a few precise modifications, she could compromise the invaders' life support systems. Targeting specific molecular resonance frequencies, Sophia explained to a group of younger students who had gathered around her workstation. Their exoskeleton suits have a specific carbon-silicon composite that becomes unstable under certain electromagnetic frequencies. The station's network was more than a communication system. It was a living organism, adapting, learning, fighting back. Jason's most impressive achievement was yet to come. He began to inject false information into the Zarkov invasion network. Communication channels became a maze of misinformation. Tactical units received conflicting orders. The precision strike was becoming a catastrophic mess of confusion and misdirection. They think they're fighting a scattered group of researchers, Emma said, her voice cold and calculating. They don't realize they're fighting an entire system designed to transform every challenge into an opportunity. The Zarkov had made a critical error. They saw youth and assumed vulnerability. Instead, they found a network of young minds that could transform a research station into the most dangerous battlefield in the galaxy. As hours passed, the invasion began to crumble, not through traditional military might, but through intelligence, adaptation, and a fundamental misunderstanding of human potential. Jason looked up from his interfaces, a slight smile crossing his face. "They never saw us coming," he muttered. The resistance had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The xenobiology laboratory had transformed from a place of scientific research into a crucible of survival. Sophia Patel stood at the center of a rapidly evolving defensive strategy, her 15-year-old mind working faster than most advanced combat computers. The Zarkov had chosen their target believing it to be a simple research station. They did not understand that every piece of equipment, every scientific instrument, could become a weapon in the hands of humanity's most adaptive minds. Molecular resonance frequency, Sophia muttered, adjusting a quantum spectrometer that now served a very different purpose than its original design. The device had been created to analyze microscopic biological structures. Now, it would become an instrument of defense. Her research into the Zarkov exoskeleton suits had revealed a critical vulnerability. The complex carbon-silicon composite used in their environmental protection had a specific molecular structure with unexpected weaknesses. A precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse could cause microscopic structural failures that would compromise the entire suit's integrity. Nearby, Marcus Thompson worked on transforming the station's advanced imaging equipment. What was once used for capturing detailed molecular structures now became a targeting system of unprecedented sophistication. He integrated quantum computing principles with advanced optics, creating a defensive network that could track and predict Zarkov troop movements with terrifying accuracy. Adaptive Targeting Protocol. Marcus explained to a group of younger students who had gathered around his workstation, "We're not just defending. We're learning and responding in real time." The station's research equipment became an arsenal of unprecedented complexity. Laser microscopes became precision targeting systems. Spectral analyzers transformed into advanced sensor networks. Every scientific instrument told a story of human ingenuity. In the medical bay, another group of students repurposed medical nanobots. Originally designed for precise cellular repair, they now became a defensive mechanism. Programmed with advanced algorithms, the nanobots could infiltrate the Zarkov troops' environmental systems, causing microscopic disruptions that would compromise their combat effectiveness. Dr. Michael Chen observed the transformation with a mixture of scientific fascination and parental pride. The education systems that produced these students have been preparing them for scenarios far beyond traditional academic boundaries. This was more than a defense. This was a demonstration of human potential. Sophia's breakthrough came almost by accident. Analyzing the Zarkov troops' environmental suits, she discovered a critical weakness in their thermal regulation systems. A precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse could cause microscopic structural failures that would compromise the entire suit's cooling mechanisms. "Temperature becomes our weapon," she explained, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "Their suits are designed for specific environmental parameters. We can turn their own technology against them." The weapons they created were not traditional. They were extensions of scientific understanding. Each defensive system was a lesson in adaptation, a testament to human creativity. Marcus integrated quantum computing principles with the station's communication arrays. What had been a research tool for deep space communication became a sophisticated electronic warfare platform. False coordinate systems appeared. Tactical networks fractured. The Zarkov found themselves fighting an enemy that rewrote the rules of engagement with each passing moment. They expected passive researchers, Emma Rodriguez commented, reviewing the developing defensive strategies. Instead, they've encountered a living, thinking system that transforms every challenge into an opportunity. The station was no longer just a research facility. It had become a living organism of human potential. Every student, every piece of equipment, every scientific principle became a weapon of survival. As the Zarkov troops continued their invasion, they remained unaware of the true nature of their enemy. These were not just students. These were the future architects of human survival. The weapons of knowledge were about to be unleashed. Psychological warfare was an art form the Zarkov believed they had perfected across 1,000 conquered worlds. They had never encountered humanity's unique approach to mental warfare. Jason Williams understood something fundamental about communication that most military strategists missed. Information was not just a tool. It was a weapon. The living, breathing entity that could be shaped, manipulated, and weaponized. The first broadcast came unexpectedly. Zarkov communication channels suddenly filled with a montage that defied their understanding. Snippets of scientific lectures, classroom discussions about interstellar biology, moments of young researchers laughing, scenes of collaborative problem-solving. Each transmission carried an underlying message that was more terrifying than any direct threat. We are not afraid. We are learning. And we are coming for you. Emma Rodriguez coordinated the psychological offensive with the precision of a veteran commander. Each communication was carefully crafted, designed to penetrate the Zarkov's collective consciousness. They weren't just defending. They were teaching a lesson about human resilience. In the communication hub, Jason's fingers moved like lightning. He had discovered something extraordinary about the Zarkov communication networks. Their entire military structure relied on a hierarchical information system that assumed linear thinking. Humanity's communication was fundamentally different. a network that could adapt, shift, and respond with unprecedented flexibility. They're used to breaking communication lines. Jason explained to a group of younger students watching him work. We're going to show them that our communication is a living organism. Holographic displays began to show the psychological impact. Zarkov tactical units received conflicting information. Transmission patterns became unpredictable. What seemed like random broadcasts carried deeper psychological warfare techniques. Sophia Patel contributed her own unique approach. Her background in xenobiology gave her insights into communication patterns across different species. She helped design transmissions that would trigger specific neurological responses in the Zarkov neural networks. Communication is more than words, she told Marcus Thompson. It's about understanding the fundamental patterns of perception. The broadcasts became increasingly sophisticated. Scenes of human education were interwoven with tactical information. A lecture about quantum mechanics would suddenly include precise coordinates of Zarkov troop movements. A discussion about interstellar ecology would reveal critical vulnerabilities in their invasion strategy. Dr. Michael Chen watched the psychological offensive with scientific fascination. These students were doing something unprecedented. They were fighting a war through education, through the simple act of sharing knowledge. The Zarkov found themselves confronting an enemy that didn't follow any known military doctrine. These were not soldiers. These were researchers, students, young minds that transformed every challenge into an opportunity for learning and growth. Jason's most brilliant stroke came when he began to broadcast the invaders' own communication channels back to them. Zarkov troops started receiving transmissions of their own tactical discussions, but subtly altered. Moments of doubt were highlighted. Strategic mistakes were emphasized. We're not just fighting, Emma explained. We're demonstrating the fundamental difference between our civilizations. Tactical units began to hesitate. The precise, machine-like efficiency of the Zarkov invasion started to fracture. They were encountering an enemy that didn't just resist. It adapted, learned, and transformed with each passing moment. The psychological warfare reached its peak when Jason managed to broadcast a simple message across all Zarkov communication channels. It was not a threat. It was not a declaration of war. It was an invitation to learn. The invasion was no longer just a conflict. It had become a lesson about the nature of human potential. And the Zarkov were about to receive their most important education. News of the attack spread faster than light itself. In Boston, retired Marine veteran David Rodriguez sat in his university lecture hall, his prosthetic arm resting on a holographic display. The moment the first reports came through, he was already coordinating with former military colleagues, academic networks, and emergency response teams. This isn't just an attack, he told his students. This is a challenge to everything we've built. Across human-controlled space, educational institutions transformed into war rooms. High school robotics clubs began designing combat support systems. University research centers became rapid response think tanks. The attack on Perimeter Station Alpha had triggered a response mechanism far more complex than any military doctrine. At MIT, a team of undergraduate researchers immediately began analyzing the Zarkov invasion patterns. What would have been a complex research project became a real-time defensive strategy. Computer science students wrote adaptive algorithms. Engineering teams designed countermeasure technologies. Biology students studied the alien physiology, seeking vulnerabilities. In Tokyo, the Nakamura family's multi-generational network activated. Grandparents who had spent careers in technology development began sharing historical defense strategies. Parents working in quantum communications provided technical insights. Their children, still in school, began developing communication encryption methods that would make the Zarkov's technology look primitive. Catherine Chen, a retired quantum physicist living in San Francisco, gathered her network of scientific colleagues. Within hours, they had established a global research consortium dedicated to understanding and countering the alien threat. Age became irrelevant. Experience combined with youthful innovation. Military veterans who had transitioned to academic roles became unexpected resources. They understood both tactical thinking and educational methodologies. They knew how to transform students from potential victims into strategic defenders. "We've been preparing for this our entire lives," David Rodriguez told a group of high school students who had volunteered for emergency response training. Every science class, every technology course, every problem-solving exercise. This is what they were designed for. Educational networks became defensive networks. Online learning platforms transformed into strategic communication hubs. Students from different continents collaborated in real time, sharing information, developing technologies, creating a global response system that moved faster than any traditional military command structure. In Cape Town, a group of teenagers repurposed satellite communication systems originally designed for educational outreach. They created a global early warning network that could track and predict alien movement patterns. What the Zarkov saw as a scattered, disorganized species was actually a highly interconnected organism. Universities suspended normal operations. Research grants were redirected. Every scientific resource became focused on understanding and defeating the alien threat. The boundaries between education, research, and defense disappeared completely. Sophia Patel's parents, both biotechnology researchers, began analyzing the communication intercepts their daughter and her colleagues had captured. Families became research units. Dinner table conversations turned into strategic planning sessions. The generational response was unlike anything in human history. This wasn't a military mobilization. This was a collective educational immune response. Every person became a potential defender. Every piece of knowledge a potential weapon. Jason Williams' parents, both network security experts, provided critical insights into the communication strategies their son was developing. Generations of technological knowledge converged into a single adaptive defensive system. "They attacked our young," David Rodriguez said during a global broadcast. "They didn't understand that our young are our greatest strength." Schools became training grounds. Research centers became fortresses. Every educational institution transformed into a node in a global defensive network. The Zarkov had made a catastrophic mistake. They had not just attacked a research station. They had awakened an entire civilization's potential for collective response. And humanity was just getting started. Daniel Kim's hands moved like lightning across the holographic interfaces. What had started as a university robotics competition project now became humanity's most sophisticated defensive technology. The nanofabrication equipment hummed with potential, transforming research tools into weapons of unprecedented complexity. Perimeter Station Alpha was no longer just a research facility. It had become a living laboratory of human innovation, where every piece of equipment told a story of adaptation and survival. "We're not building weapons," Daniel explained to a group of younger students watching him work. "We're solving a problem. And problem solving is what humans do best." The station's quantum computing core, originally designed for complex scientific simulations, now became the brain of an adaptive defensive network. Marcus Thompson had discovered a way to use the quantum processors to predict Zarkov troop movements with terrifying accuracy. Each algorithmic calculation was a weapon more precise than any plasma cannon. Sophia Patel's xenobiology research took an unexpected turn. The same nanobots originally developed for cellular repair became sophisticated infiltration systems. They could penetrate the Zarkov troops' environmental suits, gathering intelligence and causing microscopic disruptions that would compromise entire combat units. In the engineering section, students repurposed every available piece of equipment. Laser microscopes became precision targeting systems. Spectral analyzers transformed into advanced sensor networks. Medical imaging equipment became sophisticated communication jammers. Emma Rodriguez coordinated the technological improvisation with the precision of a master strategist. Each piece of equipment was not just a tool. It was a potential solution to the alien invasion. Adaptive response protocol, she called out, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. "We're not just defending. We're learning and evolving with every moment. The nanofabrication systems began producing defensive drones that defied traditional military design. These were not simple combat machines. They were intelligent systems that could adapt, learn, and respond to changing battlefield conditions. Each drone was a small piece of distributed intelligence, connected through a quantum communication network that made the Zarkov's communication systems look primitive. Dr. Michael Chen watched the technological transformation with scientific fascination. These students were doing something unprecedented. They were treating warfare as a complex problem to be solved, not a conflict to be won through brute force. Daniel's most impressive creation came from an unexpected source: the robotics competition prototype he had been developing. A modular adaptive drone system now became a sophisticated defensive network. Each drone could redistribute its computational resources, create decoy systems, and even sacrifice itself to provide critical intelligence. Swarm intelligence, Daniel explained. Each unit is part of a larger adaptive system. They learn. They evolve. They respond. The station's communication arrays became more than just transmission systems. Jason Williams had transformed them into a sophisticated electronic warfare platform. False coordinate systems appeared. Tactical networks fractured. The Zarkov found themselves fighting an enemy that could reshape its defensive capabilities in real time. Sophia's breakthrough came when she discovered a way to use the station's advanced imaging equipment to create molecular-level disruption fields. The same technology used to study microscopic biological structures could now cause microscopic failures in the Zarkov troops' environmental suits. Temperature becomes our weapon, she explained, her voice calm and clinical. We can turn their own technological advantages against them. The technological improvisation reached its peak when Marcus integrated quantum computing principles with the station's communication arrays. What had been a research tool for deep space communication became a weapon of unprecedented sophistication. Every piece of equipment told a story. Every scientific instrument became a potential solution. The boundaries between research, education, and defense disappeared completely. The Zarkov had made a critical error. They had attacked a place of learning, not understanding that for humans, learning was the most powerful weapon of all. And humanity was just getting started. The final assault began not with a thunderous explosion, but with a moment of profound silence. Admiral Kazera's command ship hung in space, its quantum displacement systems suddenly failing. Tactical displays flickered with impossible data streams. Communication networks collapsed from within, replaced by a symphony of human ingenuity. Emma Rodriguez stood at the center of Perimeter Station Alpha's command hub, her tactical displays showing the complete disintegration of the Zarkov invasion force. This was not a traditional military victory. This was a comprehensive deconstruction of an entire invasion strategy. Jason Williams had orchestrated the most sophisticated electronic warfare attack in known galactic history. The Zarkov communication networks became a labyrinth of misinformation, false coordinates, and cascading system failures. Each transmission became a weapon, each data packet a potential point of total system collapse. They thought we were just students, Jason muttered, watching the tactical displays. They didn't understand that learning is our most powerful weapon. Sophia Patel's molecular disruption protocols reached their pinnacle. The nanobots she had developed began causing microscopic failures in the Zarkov troops' environmental suits. Entire combat units found their advanced technology turning against them. Cooling systems failed. Communication implants became useless. Their greatest technological advantages became their most significant vulnerabilities. On the command ship, Admiral Kazera watched in horror as her invasion plans collapsed. The precise, machine-like efficiency of the Zarkov military doctrine crumbled against an enemy that didn't fight like any civilization they had encountered before. Daniel Kim's adaptive drone networks swarmed through the alien fleet. Each drone was more than a simple combat unit. They were intelligent systems that learned, adapted, and responded with unprecedented speed. What the Zarkov saw as a scattered defensive network was actually a living, thinking system of distributed intelligence. Marcus Thompson's quantum computing algorithms predicted and countered every Zarkov tactical movement before they could be implemented. Their invasion strategy became a series of increasingly desperate attempts to regain control, each more futile than the last. The station's defensive systems were no longer just protecting a research facility. They were dismantling an entire invasion force with surgical precision. Dr. Michael Chen watched the final moments of the conflict with a mixture of scientific fascination and parental pride. These students had done more than defend themselves. They had provided a comprehensive lesson about the nature of human potential. "They attacked our young," Emma said, her voice calm and clinical. "They didn't understand that our young are our greatest strength." The Zarkov command ship began to break apart, not through traditional weapons, but through a complete systemic collapse. Communication networks failed. Quantum displacement systems became useless. Each technological advantage turned into a critical vulnerability. In the final moments, Admiral Kazera understood the true nature of her mistake. This was not a military conflict. This was a fundamental misunderstanding of human potential. Sophia's final protocol sent a transmission across the entire Zarkov communication network. It was not a threat. It was not a declaration of victory. It was an invitation to learn. The invasion ended not with a massive explosion, but with a quiet deconstruction of everything the Zarkov believed about warfare, intelligence, and potential. Perimeter Station Alpha stood intact. The young researchers who had been the target of the invasion emerged not as victims, but as the architects of a new understanding of galactic conflict. The Zarkov had made a catastrophic error. They had attacked a place of learning, not understanding that for humans, learning was the most powerful weapon of all. And humanity was just getting started.